Welcome to our program, the grand reopening of arts and culture in Chester County. I'm here tonight with Justin Chan, Clyde Evans, Heather Greyberg, Richard May, and we have a great program for you this evening. Whether you're here with us in person in the theater or joining us by live stream, I'm here with you from the stage of the Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center. Our program tonight is brought to you by four partners: the Hub for Arts and Culture, the Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center, RKM Advisors, a Baldwin Company, and Willpower. Since we're recording for distribution later, I'm going to ask please to hold the applause till the end. So tonight we're going to begin with an introduction by Richard May about the Hub. Then we'll have insights from our esteemed panelists. And we're going to be talking about what has changed, what remains the same, and what is the role of arts and culture in our community. I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll introduce our esteemed guests. I'm Angeline May. I'm the CEO and founder of On Market Solutions, a marketing and business development consultancy working to help experts and thought leaders use content marketing to grow their businesses. I grew up in Westchester and then studied art in California and then design and marketing in Boston and New York. Since moving back home nearly 20 years ago, I've been passionate about business development, startups, and nonprofits across the greater Philadelphia region. But in the last decade, my focus has shifted to helping women discover opportunities for growth. And in 2017, I founded Willpower. We're a networking and career development group for women entrepreneurs, business owners, and community leaders. And we're working to develop business partnerships and strategic alliances that grow revenue and increase influence. I'm so honored to be here to facilitate this discussion with these astounding guests. Justin Chan is the owner of Valley Creek Productions, a video production company specializing in live events and corporate video. He resides in Valley Township, is a lifelong Chester County resident, and his business office is headquartered in downtown Coatesville. He started the video production business more than 15 years ago, back in 2005, after a degree in communications from Temple University and an MBA from Penn State. Justin also serves as the vice president of the Western Chester County Chamber of Commerce, where he hosts and produces a bi-weekly live business news show featuring local businesses and nonprofits called Western Chester County Checks In. He also serves as the director of fundraising for the National Association of Catering and Events, the Philadelphia chapter. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Great. Next, we have Clyde Evans. Clyde Evans is a master hip-hop dance teacher who has traveled the world as a lead dancer in professional hip-hop touring ensemble. He's visited France, Italy, Germany, Finland, Africa, Brazil, and he's performed with stars like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Morgan Freeman, Susan Sarandon, Bruce Willis, Robert Redford, and more. He resolved to form his own touring company in 2002 to present hip-hop in a family-friendly way, which led to performances in NFL commercials, on BET, on Fox, for McDonald's, the X Games, and more. He lives with his family here in Westchester, and he teaches hip-hop at Drexel, Montgomery County, and other dance studios in Chester County. He is looking forward to raising support for a main stage play about his life and to putting on events that bring communities closer together here in Chester County. Welcome, Clyde.
Thank you.
Heather Greyberg is the founder and executive artistic producer of Revival Productions. Heather lives in Coatesville with her husband and 2 kids and runs the theater company out of Coatesville. Heather is an actress, producer, director, choreographer, having performed with companies all across the US. Revival Production runs a theater and performing arts conservatory, a professional theatrical performances, summer camps, programs for all ages in the greater Coatesville area. And she is in the process of expanding with an exciting main stage venue project in the works in Coatesville, as well as additional locations and partnerships across Chester County. Welcome, Heather. Of over 10 years ago, and in his spare time, Richard May co-founded this venue, the Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center. Richard has been a Chester County resident since 1976, when he moved with his family, including me, here from DC. He has been a Westchester business owner since 1980, when he founded his company. He's currently president of RKM, a Baldwin Company, an investment advisory firm. And it is his creative, financial, and funding ideas that have been at the heart of many of the successful public-private community projects that have come to light. He's a founder of several active venture capital entities that have helped to fund and develop business, arts, and culture in Westchester. As a community steward, Richard served on the boards of the Westchester Public Library, the Business Improvement District, the Downtown Foundation, and his long-term involvement in supporting the local community has expanded to a more regional focus, which started a few years before the pandemic. So I want to welcome Richard and ask him if he might share a bit about the Hub for Arts and Culture with us.
Thank you, Angeline, and welcome all of you here to the Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center, a feat that we're very proud of having accomplished. It started back in 2011, and we were able to open the doors of this theater in 2016 and have had 5 very good years, pandemic notwithstanding. During the pandemic, a lot of very bright and creative minds were focused on making the arts exciting and creating exciting ways of dealing with the virtual world. What we're seeing now is, in many ways, what I've described as a vaudeville moment. Many of you know that vaudeville was very popular in the U.S. back in the 1880s. It was probably the predominant form of theater entertainment during the next 50 years. And it wasn't until the advancement of technology to include cinema, and especially talking cinema, that put the vaudeville routine out of business. And by the late 1930s, vaudeville had effectively been retired. I think we're literally at another moment like that, where technology, and some of it accelerated because of the pandemic, has made theater as we know it not obsolete, but basically in change mode. Between augmented reality, artificial intelligence, immersion technologies, and all the various technologies that are being applied to theater today, we're seeing a revolution in the scope of what can be done with theater space. It has prompted us to open and establish an organization called the Hub for Arts and Culture. And the Hubs for Art and Culture.
You have a friend.
I do. I attract some interesting creatures. So the Hub for Arts and Culture is a collaboration between Westchester LLC, one of the organizations that provided funding for Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center, as well as Women Willpower, the LLC that Angeline has formed, the William Lister May Foundation, which was a not-for-profit foundation formed upon the death of our son and has been in existence for 25 years, funding young creative professionals, young professionals. And last but not least is The Answer, a creative community development company in Coatesville and throughout Chester County that's dedicated to community development. We're focusing on trying to achieve cultural exchanges between regions like the Coatesville region, Westchester, Kennett Square, Unionville, Phoenixville, Oxford. We'd like to see some of the vibes of Coatesville get into Westchester, some of the very pronounced themes that Kennett has provided into other communities, and we'd like to operate across the county to achieve this kind of cultural exchanges. In addition, there are 4 models that we've looked at very closely that I would like to share with the rest of the panel. One of them is the Genesis Foundation in the UK, which has basically funded both young creatives and creative partnerships with various cultural organizations throughout the last 20 years, and it's a very well-respected organization in the UK. Another is the Drayton Entertainment, which is a Ontario company that owns 7 different regional theaters, and they have a lot of theatrical productions that move between these various theaters in a lot of the small towns throughout Ontario. There's also the Lewis Center for the Arts in Princeton, New Jersey, that operated a lot of cultural offerings in various unusual locations like delis and open air performances over a 10-year period before they finally established the Lewis Center for the Arts, a state-of-the-art modern arts educational facility that put Princeton on the map. And last is the model that we developed right here, which was the Uptown Bravo Theater model, which got private capital combined with contributed capital and combined with borrowed capital to raise over $5 million, which enabled us to locate, acquire, and rehabilitate this building in order to open up a state-of-the-art performing arts center. So those are 4 models that we're hoping to apply to Chester County. I know it's quite a bit of a lift, but I think with a lot of collaborative participation by organizations like our panelists represent, we can do that. So I look forward to having a lively discussion about the future of arts and culture in the county.
Great. And so I'll pose the question to you. Having heard Richard talk about what's happened in arts and culture and some of the models that he's looking at, what about what he's talking about resonates with what you're working on right now in the present, but also where you see yourself taking your endeavors? And Justin, I'll start with you.
Okay. So as the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce out in Western Chester County, which is Coatesville's part of that, there's definitely a great need to have more arts and culture out there, and bringing that into our area would bring economic success as well. So there's having performances and opportunity for art expression downtown combined with other retail restaurants, etc., I think would be a nice situation to allow people to not have to venture outside of Coatesville to enjoy all those things, which right now we're getting there. As a business owner, the last couple years has been, the last year and a half has been kind of difficult. Our company does event work, and events weren't really a thing. So I realized, the power of what I do is to be able to get messages out there, even in a virtual situation. So within the chamber, that meant being able to allow nonprofits and art organizations to be able to express themselves and talk about their organizations. And that was why we created a live streaming event. And Heather was actually one of the businesses we featured, and that was the first time we met, I believe, was through that. So, utilizing all that technology also was helpful to get things moving along.
Great. Clyde, how about you?
Wow, all of it resonates with me. Throughout all of my years of touring and performing and presenting hip hop, we have run into a lot of organizations that had problems, and we've seen how they handled them. And so in terms of applying our talents to it, we saw that we had a huge impact on certain festivals, certain theaters, the successes of it, and even future bookings. I mean, what's really cool is that when you go and you perform, and then the directors or the presenters of the theater comes to you and say, hey, we want you guys back next year. Things that we understand don't normally happen, but just based on the response. So bringing something new, and I do hip-hop dancing in theater, which at the time was very new and exciting. Traditional audiences enjoyed it, New audiences enjoyed it, and I remember even downtown at the Prince, the people who were subscribers to the Prince Music Theater thought, I never thought I would enjoy hip-hop dancing. And so knowing that we were had such an impact on what was traditional theater and expanding what traditional theater was, I'd love to be able to continue to do that in other art areas as well, right? So it definitely resonates with me. And so we have had opportunities to partner with people like Microsoft. We're looking to partner with people like Adobe because they are interested in doing the augmented reality and different ways that their technologies can enhance what we do. So all on board for that.
I'm curious also, knowing that you've participated in really big, successful festivals, as Richard talks about, helping with the cultural exchange across Chester County. If there's anything from those experiences that you think we would benefit here in Chester County.
Yeah. So funny story. There's a guy. Well, he's no longer with us. His name is Chuck Davis. He was the artistic director of the African American Dance Ensemble. And we were at the Painted Bride, downtown Philadelphia. And so there was this series of dancing, and he's seen, this guy's sat with presidents and been all over the world. So he tells us that he's sitting there watching the show, and his head is in his hand, or his head is in his hand, and then we come on. And again, here's this newness that we're presenting that he is not used to seeing. And right away, he perked up. And that's the way audiences have seemed to receive something new. So I feel comfortable in looking to find what that new is that revitalizes not only the audience that come, but also those who don't come. When we saw, I had a chance to go down to Verizon Hall, down at Kimmel Center, and I believe at one point, I think they featured the orchestra playing video game music. Right? The audiences that then responded to that was like, oh, the little kids are like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing the Mario, theme being played in the orchestra. And that was something that, they would never step foot into the symphony hall, never. But for that, they did. So that stuff moves me. It gets me excited.
Yeah, really awesome how just all the generations and all of the different members of our community that have the potential to be more engaged, and especially the younger generation. And I turn to Heather, how you feel that this resonates with what you're doing, knowing that you're working really closely with a lot of kids too.
Yeah, so mine and Richard's relationship started about 2 years ago because of collaboration, which I think, especially coming out of the pandemic, that is going to be the ticket for the success of arts and culture. And even before that, it really was, but I think that sometimes some organizations don't want to work together when they don't see necessarily that the greater vision is empowering lives through the arts. So in many ways, the hub is what has been formalized to what you and your family have already been doing, synergizing this group and that group, but doing it in a more formal way. And, Coatesville in particular, I was so drawn to the community, one, because of the location. I was living in Philadelphia and ended up moving to Coatesville so I could be right between Lancaster, Philly, Baltimore, and New York, and I could work in all of those different regions. But I did notice while I was there that we were kind of in this pocket of a lack of arts and culture. And it's not that it didn't exist, it's just that we didn't have necessarily the right environment for it. We didn't have the right space for it. And there are a lot of amazing artists, and Revival Productions was just giving a facility for people to do that and to create jobs for that. And really, we exist as an economic catalyst for our community. It's all about job creation. It's all about business development. And on top of that, changing lives through the stories we tell. So, just thinking about everything going on with the hub and how, we might be able to bring one of our productions to Westchester, or, someone can come to us. We all have different stories to tell. And Chester County is very diverse. We have a rural community out in the Oxford area. We have the city of Coatesville. We have Westchester. There is a lot to offer and bring to the table, but I think it's time to hold hands, and I think that the hub is the perfect way of doing that.
Wonderful. Well, that segues perfectly into my next general question. really about what role arts and culture play in the economic development of a region. And I'll turn back to you, Richard. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting, and all this layers on everything that you all just said. Some examples of new types of cultural events that not only show off talent, but also can draw a crowd and therefore pay for themselves, are things like the Van Gogh immersion experience in Philadelphia. And I didn't realize till I looked into it that it's not just Philadelphia. You go into the room and it's the 3D projections and you're walking into a Van Gogh canvas. And it's, I think, a fairly short experience, but Philadelphia is like the 10th city that they've been in. They've been in China, they've been in Europe, they've been in several places in the US, and still have tickets that are being sold for the next 6 months or more. And another example in the UK, they're having, the Royal Opera House is having a 15-minute virtual opera experience. So I don't know exactly what that would be, but probably it's very loud, I would guess, and probably very, very robust. Another example is there's a 5G festival being planned for parts of England right now. And this is totally collaborative and participatory. They're asking the participants what they want to do in this 5G conference. And the idea is to use some sort of an immersive platform to really introduce a variety of entertainment events that will really draw a crowd, give us cash flow, and really highlight the arts.
So you're talking a lot about the various technologies that are being employed by within artistic vision, and I'm just curious if that means that there's opportunity for how technology that is born through arts is translated into other economic sectors. Any thoughts there? I sort of strayed.
I'm just trying to figure out I don't know. I mean, well, obviously you look at video technology, like a good example being Zoom, a product that we didn't know existed until March of last year, became a big component of our existence, and we found very unique ways, even in the arts world, to utilize that technology. So yeah, I think you could see tech come out of creativity that would then go into general use and be profitable.
Yeah, I'd love to say that I just watched Star Wars again the other day, and as I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff, they created it. These artists created the visuals that we saw and pushed that forward. And another profound time was when there was, I think, this jump from VHS to Blu-ray, or DVD. And I remember a friend of mine saying, "You've not seen The Matrix?" And I was just like, "Oh, why not?" "No, I haven't," and then they showed it to me. And there's that unique thing they do with the cameras, taking all these photos around it, creating what they called bullet time. But aside from how cool that looked, is what everyone did as they were trying to imitate bullet time. And the things that was, the technology and the software that was created just from that thought. So, I often tell students of mine when I'm teaching them how to dance, I'm like, they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I look like this dancer, and I really admire this dancer." And I'm just like, well, really, you don't admire the dancer by themselves, is that you admire the way they think. And art pushes that, especially when we are at such a deficit, where, wow, we can't have an audience. People have to get together and think, and then to see how we can still engage, re-engage, inspire through the tools that we have. And thank goodness that we are all walking around with computers in our pockets, thanks to those who thought that way. So I'm really excited for the future and being a part of that future, especially here in Chester County.
Just to add one other thought to that whole topic is the theater goers are going to be expecting us to step it up a bit too. And so it's not just that we can, it's going to be expected of us as well.
And even just take case in point, our experience here tonight, we have members in the audience, we have members on live stream, and then we're recording because we'll be distributing this across a variety of channels as we go forward. And this might even become the norm, the sort of the standard, and look at how different this is from where we were just, 15, 16 months ago, right? And what does that mean in terms of how our communities can become healthier or more connected? What role is arts and culture playing now and then into the future in sustaining our communities and strengthening them? Heather?
For one thing, there's a lot of projections that the arts are going to have a renaissance now that we're coming out of the pandemic. Because we've been without for a year and a half, and it really makes you realize what you missed. And then even though we do have these digital perspectives now that we can live stream and do all of that, yes, I believe we have to keep it. It's really cool that someone from across the country could watch this. But we also learned that there's nothing to replace that in-person experience. And we were craving it, and we're longing for it, and it's just great to be able to do that again. But ultimately, communities thrive where arts and culture are abundant. And, it's not just the economic component. Like, yes, we are bringing dollars back into the community above the ticket cost or whatever we're doing. But it's the engagement. It's the ability to have conversations post-experience. It's the ability to even just know that there are artistic endeavors going on in your community. And one thing that we did in Coatesville, I was actually approached by the city manager because Coatesville, if you're not familiar, is going through tremendous redevelopment efforts right now. And the city manager approached me about putting banners all down Route 30 featuring our different sponsors, but then also our shows that we had this year. So when people see that there's something going on, they get really excited and they begin to take pride in their community. I'm sure there's people in Westchester that are like, yeah, we have Westchester, we have Westchester University, we have Uptown, we have all of these different things. And you have a sense of pride in your community. And when you have pride in your community, they take care of the community and not just the organizations and businesses within them.
Yeah.
You agree? You agree?
Yeah, I agree. I never wanted to be here in Westchester proper. Most of the work that I was doing was closer to the city, close to the airport, 10 minutes, I'm there. And then my wife, April, was just like, I don't know anyone down here. I want to move back because I was touring all over the place. But the reason why I didn't want to be here because I felt that nothing happened here. And so trying to accomplish this goal of having something happening here where people can take pride in where they're from because something happens here. All I ever hear about, to a degree, is Kennett Square and what happens in Kennett Square, because that's known all over the world, right? And so when I've traveled around, like for instance to the Jacob's Pillow Festival, nothing much happens there either, except for that event. And when that event happens, everyone gets excited. So I was over in Italy, Spoleto Festival, and the excitement for the 3 weeks that festival brought. I got a chance to meet a lot of the townspeople. They were all involved. People were building sets. They had so much employment. So talk about having an impact. It's not just that, hey, people are going to come visit your town and then they're going to leave, but you're going to be a part of this also. The friendships I've created still have. This is back in the 90s. It's now Anyhow, the point being that it can have a huge impact on areas like this that don't already have it. We have a friend, really close friend, who helps direct Burning Man. So we've talked to her before early last year. And again, just the transitions, because we met in the 90s, and now that she's with Burning Man and what that means. And now that these people are building, I think it's Google is helping them build something, or they've gotten. So this is not a stretch at all. This is very, very doable. And just with a little hard work and imagination, I think that these things can happen. But the people here can be excited about what's happening, and they want to be a part of it, because everybody loves to be a part of something that's moving and not something that's staying, which is why I didn't. But now I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I grew up here in Westchester, went to high school right down the road. And I remember Westchester as a community was not that exciting back in the 90s. There wasn't a whole lot here. and I watched restaurants move into town and Uptown come into town. And then I moved west out towards Coatesville, and it was the same thing where I was like, coming back here, because there's nothing to do out there. I would exist in Downingtown or in Westchester, and now I'm excited that Coatesville is becoming a vibrant community. I've attended more ribbon cuttings in the last 3 months than I have in my time with the Chamber of Commerce. There's so many businesses and so many things happening. And I think the arts are a big part of that, and one of them, and I guess I'll consider this arts. The Grand Prix, I consider that art, right?
It's entertainment and
it's
engagement.
entertainment, but it's also it's vintage cars. There's creativity there, and that's a big event for the city. This will be their 5th year that they're running it. Finally back. It was off obviously last year for COVID, and we're super the chamber is super excited about it. I'm super excited about it because we're going to be shooting video of it because moving cars is great with a drone and cameras and everything. But it's for me that was one of my first experiences in Coatesville going into downtown. Prior to my attending that event, which was I think I went to the second one, which was 2017. I had never even walked around downtown Coatesville, and I've lived there for almost a decade. I had no need to go into downtown Coatesville, and being able to walk around and say, "There's something here. This could be something very unique," and now. It's starting to come to fruition. I moved my office out of my house and into downtown 2 years ago, and I'm seeing a lot of change. And obviously this is economic and it's business, but culture and arts are needed to keep people there, to make people want to stay and spend their money and their time there. And this cool, we were talking about the jazz cafe that's going to be opening in downtown. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's going to be food and entertainment, and that's what we need to keep people in town and keep them engaged, not only the residents but then those that live around outside as well.
Any thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the commissioners of Chester County did a really good job in getting us through the pandemic, getting us vaccinated. There was an article in the Daily Local News this morning that we're down to less than 1% positive testing. So they've done a great job keeping us alive. But it's the job of arts and culture to make living worthwhile. So I think the commissioners now can turn their attention to start funneling some federal and state money into the arts and culture, as they've started to do. But unlike the UK, which is the national government's very supportive of the arts, the US government is not quite as supportive of the arts. So it's really more function of state and local, and obviously our philanthropic class as well.
Well, that leads wonderfully into the next question that I wanted to bring forward to all of you, which is really what can we, as a collective do to better help and support arts and culture from a bigger picture perspective. What can individuals do? What can businesses do? What can fellow arts and culture organizations do for one another? It's kind of a big question, big space. Does anyone have a thought? Start us off.
So on my end, I mean, we as a company, I spend all my time doing on weddings at corporate, and it's not the most glamorous video content, but it runs a business. What I like to do for fun is to help organizations like this, and that's the partnership with business and nonprofit is really key. When this building was under construction, it was very early on when I knew this was happening, and I wanted to do something with my skill set to help promote Uptown, and that's why I'm here and why I've been involved with this group. And I generally spend my time over in the back with the camera, which is where I was 2 weeks ago when I was here. That's where I prefer to be. But that's always been our goal, is to support the community, and where we can. And arts for us is a big part of that. So even, when Heather and I have had a couple conversations where we've consulted there, and for me, that's our way to give back. I'm not an artist, so I can't give I'm not going to give in that way, but I can.
You are, though, in your own right.
I'm in my own way. But for me, it's what can I do to help promote an organization? And a lot of businesses have those skill sets. So I think as a community, businesses need to be looking to find ways to, if it's not a financial give, it's a skill set give to help arts in their community.
Like Justin was saying, a lot of businesses have resources. So, it might even be an idea that we run with, and it's like, for-profit and nonprofit sector alike. What can you offer other organizations? I have a for-profit company as well where I do arts consulting. So, but sometimes I see that another organization is just in need of my expertise. And so I'm like, oh, do I have expertise? Because sometimes I feel like the pandemic, if anything, has taught us all that we need to learn more and adapt. And I feel like coming out of it, I know a lot more, but I'll consult with other organizations and give them some pointers on where to go in the next direction. But I think about, like, what can we as an organization do? Maybe it's sharing space. Like, we actually have AHA, Arts Holding Hands and Hearts, and Jan Missioner's here. They use our facility for their lending library. And then they also have children from the CCIU come and they acquire their skills there through AHA, and then they do some things for Revival Productions as well. But then I also think about, like, what can we do for the businesses? We are economic catalysts. That's what Revival Productions seeks to be. But, we have this one idea. I'll share this idea that we're working on, and it's getting grants to be able to offer business sponsorships to businesses that might not be able to afford it. So, for example, we might be able to get a grant, and some company in Coatesville might say, oh, I'd love to be a sponsor of Revival and get all of the perks along with that, but we just can't do it right now. But because we care about those businesses, having them matched to one of our grants, they get the grant, and it is, they get the full perks of being a sponsor. And not only are we getting promotion through them and their business, but then we're promoting the business that's, it's synergistic. And I think realizing that is very important for the success of the entire community.
Yeah, I think recognizing the value that everyone has, and I think that sometimes a lot of people don't, and they don't share that value. The power of being able to say to a friend, hey, come with me to a show. You should see. So I visit there's a church called Christ Community Church, and the pastor there loved this production, Christmas Story thing, the radio production. Loved it. And I just thought, wow, there's 1,000 people at church that would love to hear you say that. To me, that's the support that the arts needs. That someone could tell another person in my neighborhood. I said, oh, yeah. Going to the theater, to the Uptown. What's that? There's opportunity there. First of all, I'm shocked that they didn't know, but that's beside the point. However, there's opportunity there to share my experience and say, yeah, why don't you come with me? Maybe I'll buy them a ticket or something like that. Come accompany me in some which way to make it more accessible so that indeed that can grow. They can have the experience, and then they can invite their friends, and their friends invite their, and then they're all here. All of Westchester is here. And then they can be on board when they see something, they go, aha, they're having this. We should call in this person. We should whatever, So I just saw the efforts that are that go into making these productions a success is not just on the theater, but it becomes on the community.
That's great.
I think there are a lot of players that have to work together, coordinate, and just like the Uptown model is a little bit of a metaphor. There were private capital that was invested in the LLC that actually bought and rehabilitated the theater. We at one point hired a very effective development officer who helped us raise $2 million in contributed capital, which was then added to the pot for the renovation of the theater. And then relationships with local banks and businesses helped put us close to the top. And finally, there was state funding that came in, state and federal funding, a state grant, and then federal and state funding through historic tax credits that gave a return to our investors that basically contributed a fairly substantial return to them, which enabled the return, the paid return, to be lower. But all those factors together really making the arts and culture successful. After all, just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a county to raise the arts.
Here. The idea of the individual who comes and provides QuickBooks support, right? All the way up to looking at $2 or $3 million grants or a combination of public-private, seeing that wide stretch of ways in which you can be involved. I would imagine that all four of you are, you're out there, you're talking about what you're doing, you're asking questions, you're listening to what people are interested in and what they might have to give, and I would imagine that being, extending yourself and asking the question, have the conversation, right? I'm curious, if there's sort of one moment that you can think back on, a conversation with somebody that really made a difference in your individual businesses or a project that you were working on where you may not have expected that partnership or that alliance to form, but it ended up having a big impact on the success of what you were doing, Justin.
So, for those that aren't in the small business world, they not know necessarily what a chamber of commerce does. So it's really the purpose is to connect businesses to other businesses. They do that, I got a friend now. They do that through events, of course. Like that's what most people assume chambers of commerce do, is host events. But the events are there to provide opportunity for people to connect. For me, that connection and organization is what brought me to have offices in Coatesville. I made a connection through that organization that got me to, actually the Grand Prix was one of the first things that we did for the city that then led to more work. We produced a series of branding content for the city to promote economic growth in downtown Coatesville. And as a result of that opened up a lot of doors for us to understand what was going on in town. That led to a board position on the chamber, and then an office in the same building that they are in. And it's that those connections are really what make business and anything work. And for us, it's always been getting out there and meeting people, because even if it's not somebody that I'm going to directly do business with, I'm going to know somebody that I can send them to that they're going to need that service or that person. And arts is the same way. Even as a chamber of commerce, like there's always an opportunity where there's something that might be needed one way or the other, that we can share those contacts.
Any other stories of connection that were profound and helpful?
Oh gosh, I have a lot. I'm just trying to think of just one. So just a little backstory on Revival Productions. We incorporated in 2017, began operating in 2018. In the beginning of September of 2017, I had just had my youngest daughter. She was about 3 months old. And I was just driving through Coatesville, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can just see people leaving a performance, going out to eat, going back and forth, getting a drink afterward, whatever. And finally, instead of saying someone should do something, I said, well, I guess I'm going to do it. And I've been stubborn about it ever since. And protecting the artistic integrity of the company, the financial integrity of the company, but more importantly, the community that I'm in, that I now own a home in. And so I met with Sunny Hunsinger, who it works with the RDA, and I believe she's hired by the county to help foster the redevelopment in Coatesville. So I met with her in September, and I said, this is what I'm thinking, and et cetera, et cetera. And she just kind of was like looking at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel, I'm not foolish because she was making me feel foolish, but I know she hears a lot of pitches. And then she's like, okay, you need to talk to this person, and this person. So I got connected to one person who then connected me to Jan Mishner, who's here tonight. And I remember going to, I think it was like lunch with Jan, probably in October or so. And I just wanted to get a sense of what arts and culture was. 2 weeks before I had incorporated, 2 weeks before I met with Sunny, the theater in town was sold. So I was kind of like, what am I walking into? So I met with Jan, and we were just talking about where we could align, and we've continued to do so for the past 4 years. So dovetailing was an extremely important part of conversations. Is there someone else that is doing what you're doing, and can you join forces to make it stronger? I think that sometimes as artists, and I can say this being one, we're a little selfish in that we want to be the pioneer, we want to be the person in the spotlight, we want to do the thing, but we are not all equipped to do everything. Richard brings with him a tremendous other aspect of financing and that kind of background that I don't bring. And together we have conversations, and we realize it all together. But it's not just those kinds of conversations. It's the conversations with Jan. It's the conversations with everyone here. And like I said from the very beginning, it's all about collaboration. I've already thought of about 3 different ways I can collaborate with these 2 gentlemen to my left right now, and we'll continue to have that conversation. And overall, what's the greater vision? What's the greater mission of why we are doing what we're doing with our organizations, but also our personal goals?
Awesome. Clyde, any thoughts?
Yeah. So, like I said, man, I'm like, why Westchester? Anyway, so here I am, and there's this young lady by the name of Marie Els Scott. I'm not even sure how we connected. She used to teach dance at Westchester, or she went to Westchester. She was doing PR and stuff for ESPN X Games. So she said, so X Games is here in Philadelphia, not now, but back then, X Games 7, I believe it was. And she goes, hey, it'd be really great if you guys performed the X Games. I'm like, whatever, So, but the way it works is that the X Games would go around and they sit in this city for 2 years. Then they move on. So the first year, we just kind of missed it. It was just, I don't know. Anyway, she begged me, and I was just like, fine. And the reason why she asked us to perform is because these guys would do, and ladies, death-defying stunts, the motorcycle and this and the skateboard and all that stuff, and then they would be given an award after that, and no one would show up. So here you are on this award stage, we're gonna give them an award. No one's in the audience. So they tried this and that, and she was like, Clyde, if you go, I think the audience will respond and, whatever. So we go, and of course they draw the largest audiences in the history of the X Games for these award ceremonies things. And then there's a guy there from the sneaker company, Finish Line. It's like Foot Locker, but Finish Line. Anyway, so he sees us and he's like, hey, would you come out to Minnesota or Indiana and do this managers meeting? So we go out there and they pay us $10,000 for one. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And then that led to going on BET, and then that led to the NFL Films, and then that led to McDonald's. And again, just saying that, hey, this brand and the way that you are presenting hip hop is so well accepted that you have value for some of these companies. And then we did this thing, and Sunny D came out, and they were doing this hip hop stop tour, and people were arguing, and then they found us. And again, because of our presentation, they were just like, we'd like you guys to finish this entire tour. So that happened, and then I went down to be a part of M. Night Shyamalan's movie, and turns out I taught his wife how to dance sometime in the past, and every now and then we get a chance to go. We do their foundation, their, what is that thing called? The Shamaween. It's the Halloween thing that they do, and so Bruce Willis was there, and McAvoy, and all the people that were in Split, Samuel L. Jackson, yeah, and Jaden Smith. So it was really cool to make those connections. We performed at the Ithan School, elementary school. We did a hip hop presentation for them. And then turns out that Will Smith's nieces go to that school. So I'm teaching Will Smith's nieces how to dance hip hop. All these things happening here where I thought nothing happened. And now I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. Awesome. So it's been great to be able to meet people, and then hopefully I can rope them back in to what's going on here.
Perfect. Well, as we shift to move towards closing the night, I want to start with you, Clyde. What is going on right now in your world that we can support you with? Are there any performances? Is there a vision? In what ways can we support you? And I also want to deeply apologize. I believe I may not have introduced your company, Chosen Dance Company. So please forgive me for skipping that in the beginning. But please tell us about what's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'm imagining that there's this thing that's happening with malls all over. I've heard that a lot of them are closing. Exton is a result of, it hasn't closed, but a lot of stores have left. We happen to be in an area where we are, the largest mall on the East Coast is here, King of Prussia Mall. There's another mall that's not too far from there called Suburban Square. I am DJing, I was asked to DJ at Suburban Square this weekend, and I've appeared there now. This will be my 3rd appearance there. And the reason why is that they want something cool to happen at their mall. So they've invited my company, Chosen Dance Company, to perform. First time we went there was February 20th. Freezing cold, maybe 20 degrees. And they were like, I don't think we can keep going. Anyway, but we performed, and they were like, wow, this would be great in the summer. So we did perform last week, and we drew the largest crowds at the Square. So I'm gonna DJ there this weekend, and I'm gonna try and hopefully entice them to do some more community-based things. So I pitched to them this thing that I created called Back to School Jam, hoping that we can do it here as well. Back to School Jam is something that I thought of to encourage kids about going back to school, being excited. Normally, summer's over, oh man, I wanna go back to school. Of course, that's not the taste now. Everyone wants to go back to school because they want to be around each other. However, I thought we can throw a pep rally style event, and this would engage the community outside who normally don't go or come to the mall to do whatever, but they can get to come to the mall, hang out, and be appreciated for dancing, because we all know that TikTok is like the biggest thing in the pandemic. Everyone's dancing. Everyone's dancing, right? So to help them dance and to realize this vision of bringing community together, that's something that I want to do. And also, a friend of mine asked me to come down to the Prince Music Theater when it was open because they wanted to do something with hip hop. No one knew anything about hip hop, and they were like, let's go get someone that knows something. I came in, they produced my main stage play called From the Hip. It's about my life, immigrating from the Trinidad to the United States at 8 years old, using hip hop to tell that story. We did it. They spent $118,000 on it, and standing ovations every night. However, someone was stealing money from the Prince Music Theater, and that's why the Prince Music Theater is no longer. Oh my God. Somebody internally was writing checks to themselves, and they figured it out. Then they gave the money back, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Nonetheless, I'm looking for support to put that production back on, and I want to start it here. And one of the reasons why I want to do it here is because of another friend of mine that I made by the name of Jeremy Allager. He helped get Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk to Broadway. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, Clyde, give me a copy of that show, and I will come down and I will support it and help you get on this journey to Broadway. So that is actually the next thing that I'm trying to work on. And what's so awesome about it is I told a friend of mine in San Francisco, and this is where the Microsoft thing comes in. They have been talking to Microsoft about digitizing theatrical works so that no longer is the archive just 2D, but now 3D. Ooh. So I'm a little bit premature in talking about it. I actually have a meeting with them next week, and this is like our 4th meeting with them. So hopefully I can get there in the fall, which means I'll probably have to stop teaching at Drexel and doing some other things. However, it is something that is necessary so that we can go forward. And what's so awesome about that is that the NFL actually invited me to pitch a proposal to do a Super Bowl because of anyway, lots of stuff happening. So as far as help from me, I need to make the transition, now that my kids are all grown up, from where I am teaching to now going back to performing and traveling and presenting work on the stage, but specifically from the hip, so we can realize, what's interesting about it is that I was stopped on the street 2 years later by someone who said, when is that show going to Broadway? It was so awesome. So that is what I'm trying to work on now.
Awesome,
yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Clyde.
Yeah. Oh.
And I'll pass the mic to Justin. What's going on that we can support you with these days?
So on the business side, obviously events are back. So we are insane with live events. Although I will say, be polite when you're out in society. Again, for those that haven't left their house in 18 months, we're finding a lot of challenges with behavior of people at some of our live events, social events and things in the last couple of weeks. So, but we're back into it. We did half of my business is social. So last year we did 7 weddings total. We are up to 7 this month on our wedding calendar. But on the passion project side, as Angeline had mentioned, as part of my role as with the Chamber of Commerce, we've been producing a show that's live to YouTube called Western Chester County Checks In. Runs every 2 weeks. Started it from my basement during COVID, so right in like the early part of COVID, because we realized that the business community in the area just didn't have a way to continue to express that they were open for business. So we feature nonprofits, for-profits, 2 to 3 businesses a week. And we were running the show weekly for almost a good 3 months, and then we reduced it down because, I'm not getting paid for this. So now we're on a bi-monthly basis. It's on YouTube. You can Google search it to check it out. we, get out. Initially, it was all Zoom and virtual, and now we're able to get out and about in person, which is great. So we're interviewing businesses and nonprofits, and for me, it's been a great way to learn about other businesses because I like to connect people. So being out there to meet even more of these organizations allows me to make more connections. Our episode in 2 weeks is going to have a segment on the Eklund Library, which is moving to a brand new facility. They still need to raise some funds for their space. They're moving, the space now is very small, and they're moving to a much larger space right across from Borough Hall there. Beautiful space. They're going to have a lot more arts programming there, educational programming and stuff, but they still need to raise a little more money. So didn't know about that. Now I do, because I was out there in 95-degree heat 2 days ago shooting video, because the new library is not air conditioned yet. And I was out at Suburban Brewing yesterday, which is, they have a facility in Honeybrook. They just moved to a new space, and they've got a new tap room and restaurant. And again, just opened a week ago, didn't have any knowledge of that either, so got to tour through that and walk through some beer manufacturing and stuff like that. So the show's great for me because I get to go out to all these places, but I encourage, check it out. There's 35 episodes that we produced since COVID started that are all up there, and they all feature businesses around Coatesville, all that are, Coatesville, Ackland, Parksburg, in those areas.
And Justin, where do they go to find that?
So if you go to Western Chester County Chamber's YouTube channel, you can just Google search Western Chester County, checks in and find it that way. Yeah, all 30 plus episodes. I hosted most of them myself. Again, now we've kind of switching it up. We've got some of the chamber staff hosting them too. Again, like I said, started live in my basement. Now we're back in my office where we should be.
Awesome.
So.
All right, Heather, what's going on?
Oh, making a lot of mischief in all the best ways. So, well, personally, I'm almost done grad school, arts management and executive leadership, which is extremely helpful for what I'm doing. But so we actually opened our Performing Arts Conservatory for Revival in July of last year, our first physical space where we have 3 dance studios, private lesson rooms, office space, and our 150-seat black box theater. And we just hired our full-time director of education to take on the conservatory component, and now I get to focus on the productions component of it. So we are actively searching for a main stage venue. We've had the interesting challenge of really being open full-time as in our first year as the pandemic was upon us. So we learned a lot, but the really cool thing is that we've been consistently selling out. And we just need a larger space, which is just a beautiful growing pain to have, but it's a growing pain. So ways that you can support Revival Productions are obviously through donations. We would tremendously appreciate that. We have wonderful sponsorship opportunities, sourcing us to grants or other foundations that you know of that might like to align with us. But we are really on the hunt for that main stage venue. We want to see it happen as soon as possible because we have some really great productions in the works. So if you're looking to come see one of our shows, it's www.revival-productions.com. We have summer camps going on right now. In September, we're doing our pre-professional production of Disney's Newsies, which has about 41 local youth in that production. 41, I was just so shocked that we had, that many students that want to be a part of it, and they are just top-tier talent. It's very exciting. In October, we're doing the SpongeBob musical, and that's with our professional main stage. We pay all of our actors, we pay all of our technicians. November, we're going to be doing a gala in addition to our talent slam and some other events. And in December, we'll be doing a Christmas carol as well as Handel's Messiah. Currently in the works, working on 2022, kind of gearing it towards whatever venue we're going to be in, but the arts are back. It's going to be a renaissance. We're seeing it in our numbers, we're seeing it in our engagement, and we're just really excited for the next chapter.
Awesome, thank you, Heather. And Richard, we're gonna step just a minute or two over 8 p.m. because it's exactly 8 right now. So I want to ask you to please let us know how we can help the Hub for Arts and Culture, or any other closing thoughts you want to leave with us tonight.
Well, I want to throw out a lot of credit to all the communities throughout Chester County that have really taken it upon themselves to promote the arts and culture, and name a few examples. In Coatesville, you have the Midway Project for the Arts, which is astonishing. Heather's Revival Productions has been a breath of fresh air, especially with the pandemic, actually flourishing during the pandemic. For people who might know Kennett Square, they have an organization called the Creamery that's been a breath of fresh air to downtown Kennett. Down in Oxford, the Main Street people are trying to do some stuff down there, and arts and culture is in their list of objectives. I'm interested to hear about Atglen is stepping it up. Kennett Square is building a new library. Phoenixville has taken the Colonial Theater and gone way beyond the blob. The Colonial Theater is now a multi-functioning performance art performance space, as well as a state-of-the-art movie theater. And of course, Westchester, it was the perfect town before Uptown came here, but we decided it needed to be a little bit more perfect. So we built them a theater. We also wanted to build a waterfront, but that project stalled because we couldn't figure out how to divert the Brandywine to have it come through Kennett. Coatesville already has the Brandywine running through it. So Coatesville's got a theater and a river. So Coatesville's got a leg up. Coatesville's going to be a really happening place. And I'm very excited that the hub is going to play a role, I hope, in the rebirth of the arts and theater in Coatesville and throughout Chester County.
Great. As Richard said, it takes a county to build the arts, and that's what we're looking to support and looking for your help and looking for you to share your ideas. You know, you heard a lot tonight, and the best thing that you could do right away would be to let us know what you think. What are the thoughts that are bouncing around in your mind as we discuss so many different ways that people are supporting the arts and the role that the arts plays in our communities. So we will be communicating with everybody who's participated tonight. If you visit chestercountyartsculture.com, you'll find the Hub's website where you can subscribe to our newsletter and you can submit your thoughts. We also will be asking you to participate in our future events, and we're also raising an organizing team. So we're looking for help and volunteers to stand with us as we move forward in this venture. I want to make sure to thank the participants who were with us tonight. I want to thank Justin Chan of Valley Creek Productions. Thank you, Justin. I want to thank Clyde Evans of Chosen Dance Company. Thank you, Clyde. I want to thank Heather of Revival Productions. Thank you, Heather. I want to thank Richard May for all that you've done for arts in Westchester and what you are doing for arts in the county. Thank you. And finally, also want to thank our supporters tonight, the Uptown Knauer Performing Arts Center. We couldn't be doing this without you. The model for what happened here is, one of the models that we're moving out there with. RKM, a Baldwin Company, thank you. Women Willpower, thank you. And we are just so glad to have had all of you here with us tonight. Thank you.